Before we begin, drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. Let's dive in. The moon hung low over Mount Pelion, casting a silver veil across the marble hall of the gods. Inside, laughter rang like wind chimes in the sky. The wedding of Peleus and Thetis, a mortal man and a sea goddess, had drawn every divine being from Olympus. Every one except her. Eris stood outside the gates of the immortal feast, her gold eyes flickering like dying stars. The gods hadn't forgotten her name. They had chosen to leave it off the guest list. She wasn't beautiful like Aphrodite. She wasn't wise like Athena. She didn't bring thunder like Zeus or war like Eris. What Eris brought was truth, and truth was never welcome at a party. As the music swelled inside, Eris stood barefoot in the dew-soaked grass, a single golden apple in her hand. She had plucked it from the farthest tree of the Garden of Shadows, a place none of the gods dared visit. Its skin glowed with an eerie light. She carved just 3 words into it: "For the fairest." She didn't shout, she didn't scream. She didn't curse the heavens or demand a place. She simply rolled the apple through the door and turned her back. That was the moment the true war began. Not when Paris stole Helen, not when 1,000 ships set sail. No, it all started with a woman they chose to forget, and a single fruit that would rot the roots of empires. The golden apple did not land with a crash. It made no sound at all as it rolled across the polished floor of the gods' grand hall. But when it came to a stop beneath Hera's jeweled sandals, silence struck like a blade. Every eye turned, every breath caught in the throat. 3 goddesses stepped forward at once. Hera, queen of the gods, her gown stitched with stars. Athena, warrior of wisdom, her armor gleaming with cold logic. Aphrodite, goddess of desire, whose beauty could unmake mountains. Each one reached for the apple. Each claimed it was meant for her. And Zeus, mighty ruler of Olympus, stepped back. Even he knew better than to choose between a queen, a warlord, and a flame. So he passed the choice to a mortal, Paris. A shepherd prince of Troy, born under a cursed star, raised in exile on a wind-swept hill. Paris did not know he held the fate of empires in his hand when the goddesses approached him. He only knew the scent of rain, the softness of lamb's wool, and the hunger in a man's heart when the divine touches earth. Each goddess offered him a gift. Hera promised power, the throne of all mankind. Athena promised victory, wisdom in battle, dominion over the world. But Aphrodite promised love. Not just any love, the love of Helen, the most beautiful woman to ever walk the earth. Paris did not hesitate. He gave Aphrodite the apple. And in that moment, Eris smiled in the shadows. She had not shouted, she had not fought. She had simply placed a choice and watched everything else collapse. For in choosing beauty over wisdom and power, Paris had done more than offend 2 goddesses. He had invited war into his own home. And far across the sea, in the palace of Sparta, Helen woke from a dream she did not understand. A dream where fire fell from the sky and a city drowned in smoke. Helen stood at her palace window staring out on the Aegean Sea, unaware that her name had already become a prize. She was young, no more than 20, but the poets already whispered about her as if she were a myth. Born from an egg, some said. Daughter of Zeus himself, others insisted. But Helen knew only this: when she walked, men stopped speaking. When she laughed, kings leaned closer. And when she cried, even the gods listened. She had married Menelaus, king of Sparta, out of duty, not love. He was older, hard-eyed, more sword than soul. He treated her like treasure, something to guard, something to display, but not something to understand. Then Paris arrived. He came with smooth words and eyes like the Ionian sky, too soft, too sure. He claimed he was sent as a diplomat, a guest. But the moment Helen looked at him, she felt the gods leaning over her shoulder, and she heard that echo from the dream: fire, smoke, a city falling. Paris told her she was more than beautiful, she was sacred. He spoke of escape, of destiny, of Aphrodite's blessing. And Helen, tired of being worshipped but never known, chose to believe him. One night, she left. No thunder rolled, no trumpet sounded, just the soft creak of a ship's deck as Helen, Queen of Sparta, sailed away with the Prince of Troy. Behind her, a torch flickered in the wind. In Sparta, Menelaus awoke to an empty bed and a single strand of golden hair on the pillow. In that moment, his love hardened into fury. And in the mountains of Greece, Agamemnon smiled. War was coming, and he would lead it. But in the shadows, Eris whispered, "It's not love that started this. It's the hunger to be chosen, and the cost of being ignored." Helen did not yet know it, but her name would soon be cursed across kingdoms, and the city that welcomed her would not survive the kindness. Troy stood proud above the plains, its walls thick as legend, its towers kissed by the eastern sun. To the people who lived there, the city was a song, unbreakable, eternal. And when Paris returned with Helen beside him, the song changed. Some called her a gift from the gods, others a curse in silk. Priam, the old king, welcomed her with a trembling heart. He saw the danger, but chose peace. For his son, for his people. His daughter, Cassandra, cursed by Apollo to see the future but never be believed, screamed that the gates must close, that Helen would bring fire. But the people laughed. How could one woman destroy a kingdom? So Helen walked among them, silent. The children waved, the soldiers bowed, but she saw it in their eyes, the quiet question: was she worth the war coming behind her? Then the ships arrived. 1,000 sails, white as teeth, cut across the sea. The Greeks had come. Menelaus at the helm, his eyes burning with shame and rage. Agamemnon beside him, eager for glory. Odysseus with words like knives, Achilles with death in his stride. The greatest warriors of an age, gathered not for justice, but for pride.
Troy prepared for war. The walls held, the gates locked, but inside, fear curled like smoke. Helen stood on the battlements and watched the sea writhe with ships. She clutched the scarf Paris had given her, soft and gold, like the apple Eris once rolled through the floor of the gods. She whispered to the wind, "Was I ever really loved, or only promised?" And far beyond the city, unseen by mortals, Eris stood in a field of ash. She had not lifted a sword, she had not touched a soul, but every man sharpening his blade, every woman holding her child, every god picking sides, they were all hers now. Not because she forced them, but because they believed a lie, that peace could be built by leaving one voice out. The war lasted 10 years. 10 summers of shattered shields, 10 winters of widows. Children born in siege knew only the sound of steel. Heroes rose and died: Achilles, Hector, Patroclus, Ajax. Names that would echo longer than the walls they fought to defend. But inside Troy, Helen watched it all from a tower. She no longer wore silk. Her eyes were tired, her voice seldom used. Some called her the cause, others a captive. But in truth, she had become something else entirely, a mirror. In her reflection, every man saw what he most desired, or most feared. Paris still swore she was worth the world, but love born from a bribe cannot survive the weight of blood. When he fell to an arrow, Helen did not cry. She only whispered, "You never chose me. You were told to." Then came the horse, massive, hollow, left as a gift when the Greeks vanished from the shore. Priam believed it a sign of peace. Cassandra screamed, but no one listened. That night, as the Trojans slept in celebration, warriors spilled from the wooden belly. Fire climbed the walls. Screams split the sky. Troy, the city of marble and myth, began to fall. Helen stood at her window once more, just as she had in Sparta, but this time she did not run. She stepped through the smoke, walked through streets of flame, and faced the man she had once left behind, Menelaus. Sword drawn, eyes wet, his voice cracked. "Do you know what this cost?" Helen didn't answer. She just placed his hand on her chest and said, "Now you know what it felt like to be chosen for war, not for love." He lowered his blade. And as the fire swallowed Troy, Eris watched from the ruins. She had not swung a sword. She had not touched a soul. But she had whispered a question that echoed louder than any army. What happens when we crown the beautiful and silence the forgotten? Troy burned not because of love, but because of pride. Because a goddess wasn't invited. Because a mortal was promised. Because no one asked what Helen wanted. And Eris, the goddess of strife, smiled. Not because she hated men, but because she knew the truth. Sometimes it only takes a single spark, a golden apple, a broken vow, a whispered insult, to bring down an empire built on ego. And in the silence after the flames, only one name remained. Not Paris, not Menelaus, not even Achilles, but Helen. And somewhere far beyond the ashes, a goddess vanished into the wind, whispering, "I never touched the city. I only let them see what was already inside."